Are you afraid?
I've always been drawn to libraries, not just for the books, but for the quiet, the feeling of shared knowledge humming in the air. When I started university, the Old City Library became my sanctuary. It was a beautiful, sprawling place, built in the 1920s, with high ceilings and endless stacks. I often stayed late, sometimes until closing. The last hour, when the hum of voices faded and the fluorescent lights hummed louder in the quiet, was my favorite. It felt like I had the whole vast building to myself. One particular Tuesday, I was deep in the history section on the third floor, a labyrinth of shelves I rarely visited. It was almost 9, closing time. I was looking for a specific text, a rare regional history. The lights on the third floor were usually a bit dimmer, more atmospheric. The air was cooler, too, with that distinct old book smell stronger up there. I remember pulling out a heavy volume, its pages stiff with age. I was so engrossed, I didn't notice the time until the lights flickered, signaling the 10-minute warning. That's when I heard it. A faint, almost imperceptible sound from further down the aisle. It wasn't a cough or a whisper, more like the soft, deliberate shifting of weight, or perhaps a book being placed back on a shelf, but with a strange, dry quality to it. I paused, listening. I thought perhaps another late student was also caught in the stacks, though it was rare to see anyone else up there at that hour. I decided to make my way out, my book tucked under my arm. As I walked, I kept an ear out for the sound again. The shelves here were particularly tall, stretching almost to the ceiling, creating tight, tunnel-like corridors. It was easy to feel disoriented. Then I saw it. At the very end of the aisle, where the shadows were deepest, stood a figure. It was tall, exceptionally thin, a dark column against the already dim light. No discernible features, just a shapeless shadow. My first thought was that it was a librarian, perhaps tidying up before leaving. But even from a distance, something felt off. The figure was too still, too dark, even for the shadows it stood in. I started to walk a little faster, intending to pass it and head for the main staircase. As I got closer, the stillness became more pronounced. It didn't move. Not a twitch, not a shift of weight. The main lights flickered again, a final warning. Closing time. I glanced at the clock on the wall, then back at the figure. It was still there, exactly as I had last seen it. A prickle of unease started in my stomach. It wasn't a librarian. Librarians moved. They breathed. This thing was like a cutout, a flat void in the shape of a person. I forced myself to keep walking, my gaze fixed on the figure. My mind screamed at me to look away, but I couldn't. It was like a magnetic pull, holding my eyes to that shapeless darkness. Its limbs seemed to stretch, subtly, impossibly, as if trying to fill the entire corridor. I felt a cold dread rising. The longer I looked, the more wrong it became. Not just a shadow, but an absence of light, absorbing the faint glow from the ceiling. A void. My heart pounded in my chest. I finally tore my eyes away, just for a second, forcing myself to look at the spine of a book as I passed. When I looked back, it was closer. My breath hitched. It hadn't moved its feet. It hadn't walked. It was just closer. The gap between us diminished, as if the space itself had compressed. My mind struggled to process this. I instinctively sped up, almost a trot, my eyes fixed on the floor ahead. I couldn't look directly at it again. I just couldn't. I could feel its presence, a cold density in the air. Suddenly, a voice cut through the silence. "Young man, are you all right? We're closing." It was Ms. Davies, one of the older librarians, standing at the main desk. Her voice a comforting beacon. I practically ran the last 20 feet, bursting out of the narrow aisle and into the brighter main hall. I didn't look back. I couldn't. I just nodded frantically at Ms. Davies. "Just got lost in the stacks, Ms. Davies," I mumbled, my voice thin. She gave me a sympathetic smile, obviously used to students losing track of time. I practically fled out the main doors. I never went back to the third-floor history section after that. Sometimes, late at night, I think about the library and that long, dark aisle. I wonder what would have happened if Miss Davies hadn't called out. I don't look too long at distant shadows anymore. You never know what's just waiting for you to notice it.